Hello.
Good morning, good afternoon, good
Evening.
evening. I'm so excited for day two.
Day two. Day two.
If you are joining us for the first time or if you're back for day two, you already know the drill. But if you don't know the drill, we love to see where you're tuning in from. So please drop in the chat where you're tuning in from and let us know if this is your first ever for the essentials or if you've been here for 2 seasons, 3 seasons, or maybe all 6 seasons. Let us know. We love to see
Yes.
engage. Okay, Philly, Houston.
I wish we could
California, Rising Sun in California, Netherlands,
uh
the first time, incredible.
Istanbul.
Love to see it.
Oh, what's up, Ellen? Oh,
Woo! Nairobi,
Nairobi. Okay, DMV,
DMV for day
DC,
two.
not
Yes.
the DMV.
Sweet. Also, love to
Madagascar.
see it.
Oh my gosh, this is
See,
my
every time we see
favorite.
like places, like we're just like taking mental notes of all the places that we need to bring this to. Like we need to
Totally.
come and do.
Oh, Trinidad and
Oh
Tobago.
my gosh.
Whoa.
Imagine the Central from Trinidad. Like that would be
Oh
so
my
cool.
gosh, that would be awesome. Global
Oh
essentials
my
coming to a
God,
city
New
near
Zealand,
you.
3 a.m. I'm
No.
so sorry, New Zealand. Thank you for joining
Wow.
us at 3 a.m. Oh my
Okay, I think
gosh.
that's a first. I think that's a
That
first,
is a
right?
first.
Yeah,
Because
like
we
we've
always
had
try to do it early. Like we try to do it as early as possible to be mindful of all the different time zones.
3 a.m.
But wow, that is a first.
Monday, and it's like 3 a.m. on a Monday. Oof,
On
man.
a Monday.
I wish we could give out prizes, like throw prizes out to the audience.
I know. That's
Wow,
incredible.
that's
Wow.
definitely
Well,
a first. Amazing.
yes.
Aw, yes. Oh, Anastas. Aw, another good friend. Oh, I love this. Anastas. Yay! Season 6. Here we go.
Awesome. Well, let's get started then, shall we?
Let's do this.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Hello, and welcome for day two. Yesterday was incredible. So many great speakers. We learned a lot, and thanks to everyone for all the amazing questions. We had some really good and deep conversations, and even some really just great inspirational and motivational content and words of advice. For those who don't know me, I'm Polly Aringu. I'm the founder of Black Women Photographers, and I'm so happy to be sharing the co-hosting stage with Danielle, who is an independent photojournalist and community team member of the Everyday Projects.
Aw, thank you, Polly. I love this time we have together. It's so special and so fun, and we've got to do the worldwide, essential so that we can actually meet in person one day.
66, y'all. We have not met in person yet, but it just feels like a
Yeah,
sister. It really
yeah.
does.
Those watching wouldn't be able to tell. But anyways, for those of you who are newly joining the Essentials today, Polly and I were like so excited to see so many first timers here. The Essentials, if you don't know already, are free online classes about navigating the photojournalism industry, made in partnership with grassroots photo organizations working towards inclusivity, equity, and access in the media. And that would be the Everyday Projects, Black Women Photographers, and Photo Wings. So, as Polly mentioned, I'm on the community team of the Everyday Projects, which is a global community of visual storytellers committed to using imagery to combat harmful misperceptions and to rise above persistent inequality. That is an amazing goal, I believe, for the work that we do as photographers. And we have, again, the incredible, the one and only Polly Arungu of Black Women Photographers. Tell us more about what you do. She never stops, y'all.
So kind. Yes, so I founded the organization in 2020. So we're in year 5. We are a global community directory and we support over 2,100 Black and African creatives across more than 60 countries. We launched with the COVID-19 Relief Fund for those who are experiencing hardship during the pandemic at the peak of it. And now we've grown to provide the most amount of grants and resources and gear for Black and African women creatives. So we distribute over 230,000 so far to date. And we provide different opportunities like this one, free workshops, free portfolio reviews, photo walks, and, just continuing to provide what our members need. So it's so happy to be here. The Essentials is one of our favorite program events that we do each year. And it's made possible by Photo Wings, our other partner. So Photo Wings is a nonprofit organization dedicated to utilizing the power of photography to further deeper thinking, communication, and action. Their extensive online content and Photo Wings outreach programs have mirrored educational applications and possibilities like this, making it accessible to all of you to attend for free wherever you are.
Yes, even if it's 3 a.m. on a Monday. Um, so we just want to also give a shout out to a couple of people working behind the scenes today. We've got Rebecca Gibeon and Austin Merrill, who, along with Peter DeCampo, are the co-founders of the Everyday Projects. Rebecca's on the community team and really are just working so hard to make this series happen. You don't get to see their faces, but they are there. They're supporting us. They are cheerleading us. We couldn't do it without them. Um, and before we jump in, I'd like to also mention someone else who is very dear to the Everyday Project, Sarah Terry, who's pictured there with her beautiful glowing face, glasses, blonde hair. She recently passed away, and she's just left a massive hole in our hearts and across the visual media industry. I'm sure some of you have seen, if you don't know Sarah, I'm sure you've seen some of the tribute posts to her happening on Instagram and Facebook, and they're just so incredible to read because her spirit just comes through it. She touched so many people and so many lives. And she herself was an amazing photographer and filmmaker, contributing photographer to Seven. She was the founder of the Aftermath Project. We actually had an award recipient speak about some of her work that was supported by the Aftermath Project yesterday, Nada Harib. And Sarah helped us build and grow the Everyday Projects from the beginning. She was a supporter. She was first a contributor. And then when the when the Everyday Projects became a nonprofit, she joined our board of directors. Like, she's just done so much. I have to talk that fast to fit it all in. She's amazing. And I'm just like barely scratching the surface of what she did for the visual media industry. She loved the essentials, and it is exactly the kind of thing that she believed in, people supporting and uplifting each other through photography and education. So with that, we're going to continue with the weekend today. We have an amazing lineup of speakers. And please, we pride ourselves on a lot of time for Q&A. And so please drop your questions in the Q&A. There's no bad or wrong question. We're all an open book. The speakers we've invited are open books, so generous with their knowledge and wisdom. So please don't be shy. And no matter what stage of the practice you're in, we hope that, you can learn a lot from this weekend. Certainly, I love learning from the speakers. I know Polly has said the same. So yeah, just thanks for being here and continuing our path to growth.
Absolutely. And all of the classes that we have here are recorded, available for free for replay on our respective platforms. If you aren't already following us, please do follow all of our organizations. We love to see the support. Tag us in your stories. We saw some great IG stories and reflections being shared yesterday. Tag us, we'll repost. We love to see the interactions. And at the end of each day, you'll get a survey just to let us know what you like to see. So stay tuned for that. Just keep an eye on your inbox, because those surveys help us, plan the next classes. All these classes, are designed for all of you in mind. And so we love to hear who you want to hear from, what you want to learn. Each season, we tailor it to you. As we mentioned yesterday, like, it was very perfectly tailored. It was like back to back to back sequence. And it's because we take time to curate each class, and the flow of the show. It's very intentional of how we lay it all out. And so we want to make sure it's as beneficial as possible to all of you. Like Danielle said, no matter what stage you are in your career. So.
Excellent. All right.
And yes, I'm so excited about this one. The first class of the day for day 2. Y'all are in for such an incredible treat. Today we have the one and only Raquel Natalicchio. She is just so incredible and also somebody who's so generous with information and knowledge. And so, as Danielle said, as soon as you have any questions, you don't have to wait till the end. Just drop them in the Q&A box because we want to save plenty of time for that. So we're getting day two started with the one and only Raquel. Like I mentioned, she's just incredible. We were talking earlier, and like literally, like her energy, I could feel it from the screen. So thank you so much in advance, Raquel, because I already know this is going to be amazing. So thank you for kicking us off here and being with us. We know you are in high demand, incredibly busy, so it really means a lot to have you. So, y'all, Raquel is a bilingual photographer, originally from Los Angeles and now based in Houston as a staff visual journalist for the Houston Chronicle. Raquel documents social issues, community driven stories, political mobilization, and migration across the US Mexico border, while focusing on the universality of humanity, including themes of love, struggle, resilience, and community. She's passionate about community building and has produced several talks, panel discussions, and exhibitions in Los Angeles, Houston, and London. Raquel is the MPPA South Regional Chair and a member of Women Photograph and Diversified Photo. And we are so happy to have you, Raquel. And we'll turn the floor to you.
Whoop,
Hi,
whoop.
everybody. Thank you for that wonderful intro. I kind of feel like a Daenerys Targaryen being introduced by you guys. Thank you.
You are
And thank you,
amazing.
everybody, for being here, especially the people here at like 3 a.m. Like, oh my God, God bless you. That's so awesome. I am excited to talk about this topic just because it's not something I've really talked about before in this capacity, but it's something that I think we're always all thinking about and re creating for ourselves. And it's such a unique thing, you know? And so I just want to preface that, yes, the questions are everything. Please drop your questions, and I am going to leave a lot of time for Q&A, just because this is something that's so personal to people. And so, like, there is no one way, right? Like I'm not going to sit here and give you a recipe, but I am going to share what has worked for me and what hasn't worked, right? And how do you navigate when you try something and it doesn't work? And a lot of it is our mental state, right? How do we bounce back? How do we think of a new idea or a new approach? Um, so I'm gonna take, can I share my screen? Is that a thing?
Oh yeah,
Please.
for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Great. Welcome to my laptop, everyone. I do have some slides here with some kind of little information, but I'm going to be taking you back and forth through my Instagram and my website just to kind of give you visual examples because I know we're all visual people here and probably prefer that. Um, but a little bit about me outside of the wonderful introduction that I just received is a lot of what I've learned that I'm about to talk about actually came from just being like we all are, right? Very passionate and very much not taking no for an answer. I was lucky enough to start my career in photography before Instagram started, and I learned a lot through that. A lot of what I learned about self-marketing and promotion before Instagram or social media was a thing. It really is about not only reaching out to your immediate community, but finding ways to reach out and expand to others. So something that I used to do when I first started out, I was a street photographer, and these are some of the images I was making when I first started out. And a lot of these images weren't really being shown in a lot of spaces that were deemed kind of where you would be considered a professional photographer, right? I was going to places like Art Basel, Frise Week, a lot of like art festivals, things like that. And I wasn't seeing a lot of this kind of work. And so something that I did was to put on my own exhibition because I was going to galleries, I was going to these art festivals, and nobody knew who I was, and there was no Instagram to show them. And, it was very much you have to know someone to get somewhere. And so after a million rejections, I essentially just said, you know what? I want to do this thing. I want to showcase my work in a public way, specifically for my community in Los Angeles that was not being represented in this capacity anywhere. So I went to my local brewery and they had a bunch of wall space and I said, "Hey, like, can I please show some of my work here?" And I showed them the work and they were like, "Absolutely." Um, But something that I did because in fact, the curators at the galleries were not wrong. Nobody knew who I was at that time, is I invited people from out other communities that would understand and appreciate this to kind of come in and support. And what do I mean by that? I had friends that were graffiti artists and who were like painting artists, a little bit more on like the urban side. And so we all came together. It was like, I'm going to put on a photography show, but I would love if you also had like your section, you had your art up. And, inviting different elements into that space with live painting, getting the favorite neighborhood taco truck to show up and pull up. And so like bringing in elements that would pull in people from outside spaces that I didn't have direct access to. And so all of this to say that you really can just go for it. You don't really need to wait around. And now, obviously, we have Instagram. And so now we have our own personal curated galleries, which is so awesome. But even with that, I hope that if you get anything out of this session, it's really not about copying and pasting or not necessarily about doing something because, there's a lot of followers that this person has, but it's more so about having the confidence to have an idea and to execute it while remaining authentic to yourself and your work. So, why this matters? Um, Intention is everything. And I think that people are very good about reading intention, right? There is a difference between someone trying to really sell you something and someone inviting you to experience the thing that it is in order to see if it's something that you want or align with because they're jazzed up about it, right? Which is why you'll see so many ads and advertisers directly hitting you through friendships, right? Through your friends telling you, hey, this is a great product or this is a thing because you're more willing to then go and try that thing, right? Um, and so that can very quickly be a snowball effect into people constantly being sold something everywhere. So when it comes to photography, we're in the business of telling stories and not selling, right? This is the story of you. Marketing is the story of you. This is your personal why. Why do you do this? What are you impassioned about this? Like, we can just post our best photos all the time, but that's not necessarily going to get us clients or even people to connect with us, to collaborate with us, right? So I think what people are genuinely interested in now is that stripped down version of meeting online. Who are you? Why is it that you're doing this? Letting people into your world a little bit, into your personal why. And also, like, of course, this is to get clients. This is to make money. This is to support ourselves, to get, projects or to be able to get our projects out there. Um, but in the same way that we are using our authentic voice to tell our stories, we also have to do that for ourselves, our own personal story, which is very scary for people who are usually behind the lens. Um, and so it's okay to lean into those emotions. It's okay for it to be scary. It's okay to not necessarily have the perfect way to do it right away. Um, it's like photography. Your first photo may not have been the photo that you're going to go and showcase to your clients, although if it is, that's awesome. But it's about just trying new things, trying little different things. So if it's exhausting, maybe come on a story and talk about how as a, creative, you're feeling this thing. And 9 times out of 10, more people are gonna really be connected to the authenticity and relate. And now you're not just the person who's selling the best photo over and over and over again, right? And that's something I found really useful with my stories behind the scenes, not just at work, but just in general, like who you are as a person. Um, so when your intention is honest, your community becomes your marketing. And that is one of the most true things I've come to find. And it really is in the practice. So what I mean by that is that oftentimes what I've done is find community through doing the thing, right? My first story that I shared with you was I really want to put on a show. Nobody really cares because they don't really know who I am because I'm a young baby street photographer. Um, But by doing the show in the way that I did, about inviting other people that were within my community that also wanted to participate and get out there, I met a lot more people. And subsequently, everywhere that I've moved in my life, one of the first things I do is I really listen. to to whatever I'm popping into, right? Like, what is the photography and journalism and art community saying and speaking where I am? And so a lot of the times we feel that marketing is really always about what we have to say. And although there is a big part of that, it's also about listening and it's about what is needed. What is happening in the space around me that people that there's like that little buzz of like, oh, we wish there was more of this or more of that. Um, and responding to that thing if you feel implied and called to, right? It doesn't always have to be just photos or just this if you don't want it to be. There's other ways to market yourself that is outside of Instagram, or outside of social media. There's ways to very physically implant yourself into new communities. And we call it networking, which is kind of a dirty word to me at this point, because it's about connection, it's about building, it's about aligning ourselves with the people that are going to build together the thing that we are envisioning, right? And that might change. Um, and one of those examples is when I first moved to Houston. I really wanted to meet other female photographers just because that was just something that I really wanted to do for myself to build community for myself. Nobody could give me a name. And it was a little distressing. I like didn't understand where everybody was. I knew they were here, but I just didn't know where they were. So I used my Instagram, my stories, and I did a call out. I was like, hey, if you're a female photographer in Houston, please hit me up. I want to meet you. I want to, know. And so many came out of the wood, like literally out of the woodworks that I was like, we have enough to almost do a show. And the reason for that was because I noticed that this community was not aware of who the other players were in the room that were female creatives. So we did a show with me and a few of the female photographers that responded, and it was highlighting 40 female photographers. And I think I had only been here for a month before we did this show. And subsequently, I met so many people, so many female photographers, so many creatives that were like, wow, we need more of this. Like this is an issue also for creatives in other realms. So we then decided to do Her Vision, which was an event that was dedicated literally to other female photographer or other female creatives meeting each other, a networking event, if you will, right, in quotations. Um, and through here, I've met people that I've worked with for set design, makeup, and hair, like all of the things that you can imagine, aura photography, things I didn't even know people were doing in this city. All of that is a very long-winded way of saying finding your community by showing up, by listening, participating. That is almost some of the best marketing that you're going to get because you're going to get that interaction, that is very real. You don't have to really build a relationship through social media. You can really build it physically there and probably get a lot of inspo and get a lot of ideas just by being at other people's events, just by seeing how other people are doing things. And then seeing how can I collaborate? How do I build? How do I learn? And how do I also offer and give back what I've learned? Um, so that's a really big tip as far as like the community building aspect being a really great way to market yourself because I think that we market ourselves best in person because people really get to meet us, which is back to my first point. Who are we presenting? What are we presenting? Um, Great marketing starts, I think, with understanding who you are and it being very clear what it is that you're doing, your intention, what you want to build, right? Which is why, on a very just basic mode, this is the little pins that they created on Instagram. That's essentially you saying these are the things that are most important that I really want people to see if you see nothing else, right? But why? What are those things? So these are some of the things that you can do to really build your personal brand, if you will, or just really clearly make it obvious who you are and what you're doing. What is your voice? This goes from clarifying your visual tone, your values, your whys, like we spoke about, being consistent in imagery, captions, and communication. Um, and what I mean by that also is about really displaying your work in a way that feels like you. It doesn't always have to be the traditional way. You can be playful with your work. You can do things that kind of help you stand out in a way where maybe more of your artistry stands out, or you want to make sure that more of the words or, the things that you really want to put out there. So there's different ways to display work. Like this is work that I did. These are dailies for the Houston Chronicle. And although I could have just simply put this image, I created a layer and just making it a little bit more entertaining to see, you know, playing with full double slides, doing little things like this. And I'm not saying you have to go and do this, but it's just about this has kind of become something that is an identity marker for me. Being playful with how I'm showcasing my work, right? Our Instagrams are our gallery, our websites are our personal galleries. We get to curate them however we want. And so anything that can help you and your voice stand out or exemplify your voice, I think is really important. And it's all about being recognizable. When people see your work, they should be able to say, "Oh, that's probably whomever," right? And so consistency is key. So the little thing that I showed you, these little designs, is something that I consistently do so that when people see it, they know. Oh, that's probably Raquel because of all the layers, or like, it's not just a picture and then that's it. Although if that's your thing, great, right? Um, so again, creating visual consistency. Like this is something that now you start to see over and over and over again on my profile. Um, you'll notice tone, color, it's all it feels curated, but it really is just about sharing that visual voice. Also, something that, I've had a lot of my friends and people close to me point out to me is that they love that it's not always work. And I think that's another way that people get to meet you and get to know you, that it's not always, my chronicle work or my journalism work. I like to share moments that are inspiring, photos that I've made just because I was inspired on a trip, for example, right? This really lets people meet you outside of just who you are at work. So obviously I started off in street photography, so I always make sure that I'm still, lately I actually have been slacking. I haven't been out shooting on the streets, but it's something that now I'm seeing in my grid and in just the what I'm presenting, that's lacking. So all of this to say that your voice isn't just like how you stand as a photojournalist and like what you stand for, although that's important. It's also about who am I outside of that and how can people connect and relate to me outside of just my journalism work. And so a lot of people, I think are afraid to post their more personal work or work that doesn't have anything to do with their journalism. But I think that also just helps people meet you more deeply. Um, or am I here? So when people feel your purpose, I think they stick around. People really value, especially in this day and age, people who are willing to be a little bit vulnerable and open up. I ask myself all the time, why am I sharing this? What am I inviting people to see? And that really, I think, has helped shift the look at me to come see with me. And I use my stories to really let people into the behind the scenes of my work because I genuinely think people want to know and see and learn. And as a photojournalist and as a photographer, you have access to things that most people do not. And we have a really cool way to invite people into the making of the things or into worlds that they wouldn't have access to. Um, but that also becomes a channel that people are excited to tune into because they know that they're going to get those kind of things, right? They're not going to just get the one solid, perfectly edited, curated photo every time. Um, so the ups of self-marketing, authentic communication or authentic connection and community, best route to go because then you don't have to fake the funk. It's really about finding who is authentically aligned with what it is that you're wanting to do and build and create and finding genuine ways to connect with that. Um, Collaborations, again, that's such a big one. You meet more creatives, you learn new things, you really can't go wrong. And also, now in collaboration, you have all the other people working with you, also sharing you and your work. And so now you're expanding and reaching other people that you would have never been able to access solely on just posting a story on your Instagram. So that is that reciprocity, right? Being very meticulous about connecting, not just making sure you like talk to somebody and got their number. But for example, if I was to do sharing a little bit of BTS and I'm here with so and so and so and so, tagging them, giving them the opportunity to share that. So now you're reaching their networks and their audiences, but also now they feel like you genuinely took the time uh, to connect with them in that way, right? To put their personal brand out And so it really is about lending each other those helping hands over and over and over and taking that little extra effort to make stories more meaningful, to make your posts more meaningful, to make sure everybody is included and that it's all shareable. Because all that's going to do is just get you all the way out there into spaces that you maybe didn't even know existed. And that builds momentum. That gets more eyes on you, more followers. You'll have people reaching out, probably wanting something similar or wanting to work with you in that capacity. And the more they see how you work and what it is that you're doing, I think more people are inclined to want to participate in what it is that you're doing. Um, and one of those things that I have a quick example for is when I first started immigration coverage, I was not working for any publications. I kind of just went for it. And this was when Instagram was first kind of also starting to come out. And so I really utilized Instagram as a way, as a visual diary, because my work wasn't going anywhere for a publication. I just was very dedicated to documenting what was happening at the US-Mexico border until I figured out how. I'm completely self-taught, and so social media actually was a really big tool that led me to meet people to then start collaborating and really like not waiting for that permission and not waiting around for somebody to tell me, like, okay, now you're a photojournalist, you know. Um, this really let me share the work. It let me share the behind the scenes. And so I really encourage people to make your stories fun to watch. Let people into your visual diary. Sometimes not everything is a post. We don't have to share everything. But I think that there's ways to keep people in your channel, making sure that every time they see your little icon, they know that they're going to see something that has a little bit of depth, that has some genuine, authentic share. Um, and it doesn't always have to be very deep, but it is about you, right? So maybe we're not posting 100 different cat memes or whatever. Like if we're serious about marketing and branding ourselves and sharing who we are as storytellers, it is about making sure that every story has some level of a why. Like, why am I sharing this? Right? Um, and so what you're seeing here are just ways that I was sharing my experience in that space, with some explanations, but also like this at the time, reels were not a thing. And so there was no video. So this was my way to show that. And so again, you see something like this and you're like, wow, like that's the scene. And so then when you go and you share the actual photo of that space, um, I think it gives it a lot more meaning because now people kind of saw what it is that you did to get to it. So the ups are momentum, recognition, referrals, aligned bookings, right? I've had editors reach out to me and tell me that they were watching a lot of my work on Instagram, and that was what led them to reach out to me or know how it is that I operate and work and give them that confidence to hire me. Um, of course, there are some downs. Everything is changing so quickly all the time that it almost sometimes feels like you can't keep up with what is going to get you the engagement that, we can put so much effort into making something and then all of a sudden it literally goes nowhere and there's no likes or no engagement, no shares, no anything, and it can feel very disheartening. And that's when a lot of that self-doubt can creep in. It's a lot of the times when we get that creative fatigue where we're just like, well, then why bother? Um, and so all this to say that sometimes results are not immediate. Not everyone's going to go viral. Not every post is going to go viral. And I think it's good to kind of check yourself in understanding that s- this kind of marketing and all of this, like it's not going to like, you don't just make a story or make a post and then you get like the $10,000 job, right? What this is the building of you. It's like your own personal brick and mortar. Raquel Natalicchio, please come visit, right? And that takes time and it takes mistakes and it takes doing something and then maybe it not really working out or the algorithm is just not showing it to people. And I hope that y'all know that That's okay. The point is to keep making sure that you're working and operating from that same intention. And little by little, it will build up and people will see that effort. And that effort does show over time. And also, it'll just keep sharpening your tool over and over and over and over again. And if anything, help you continue to come up with ideas to put yourself out there, right? So the downs of self-marketing are very short. There's only three. If you remember, the ups were a lot. Um, so a lot of it is emotional. P.S. I've noticed with all of this. So just keep chipping away. Don't look at the likes, don't look at all of that, but take notice, right? Like, okay, maybe if I post it at noon, I get more engagement than if I post at 10 p.m. or vice versa. So just keep those things in mind, but don't assume that because you didn't get a lot of likes, that the thing itself is not valuable or valued or not good. Right. And like that's a very like that's something I have to remind myself of a lot. And it's something that you will probably always have to continue to remind yourself as all these algorithms and all of this stuff changes, is to not let likes and engagement reflect the value of your work. Um, so some marketing channels that I use, obviously Instagram and social, you see me talk a lot about it. Your website is a huge one. This is where people land. This is where everything gets to live that you've done. You know, sometimes people just scroll right past a lot of your things or aren't even willing to scroll past maybe one or two swipes. So your website is really where you get to showcase who you are, all of your stories. Like here, I get to show all of the shows that I've curated that people may not know that I even do, right? Each one has a page. Like this is really like the biggest breadth of work that I have. And so you can really get to play with how it is that you're showcasing yourself. I have a blog to let people know when I have exhibitions, or on a podcast or, little things like that. I do women in photo panel discussions, just on my own on YouTube, right? And that was another way to meet people and to get out there. Um, Literally everything is game. Everything is a way to market, right? And really all that is what are all the ways that I can continue to connect, continue to create, and continue to collaborate? Um, so, anyways, an email list is another thing that has worked for a lot of people. Just keeping people in the loop, is having people sign up for something that is easy and fun to see, and maybe they would have never known that you went and photographed this thing or worked on this assignment, had you not given a little update. And so maybe that's something that you do every 2 weeks. You send an email list and like, hey, this is what I've done lately. And it doesn't have to be your whole resume, but it's just a way to remind people that you're out here, you're working, you're doing the thing, and maybe you share a little personal tidbit of something cool that happened that week, like a little BTS photo, or even just something cool that you did, that maybe you took a beautiful photo on a hike somewhere, like really like making sure that there's that personable element as well so that people aren't fatigued by the constant like, I want work, I want work, I want work, right? Um, so key marketing channels, and this I've talked about way too long already. So this is what works for my practice. Sharing behind the scenes, telling the story behind the shoot, using consistent tone and color to build recognizability. I think one of the biggest compliments I've ever received is that someone told me that every time they look at the paper, they know which photos are mine right away. And obviously, I work with some real like OG badasses at the Chronicle. So it's not because it's better or worse, but it's because there's a certain coloring or editing or tone or certain thing, right, that we're known for. Some people are very like about the details or emotions. Other people are about like the big wide shots. Everyone has their thing, but it's important to recognize what that thing is for you and lean into that so that you are continuing to just be in people's minds when they see your work. Um, Captions. It's very easy, and obviously we've all fallen into this thread of making ChatGPT write our captions for us. Use it as a skeleton if that's really the way to go for you. But I will say that people engage more with just you, just talk, just be you, right? So slow growth is still growth. So it's going to take time, but at the same time, it should be fun in the process. And you really never know. It could be the day that you didn't get that high engagement, and then 1 second, the next one you do gets that high engagement. Unfortunately, this isn't something that we can necessarily control, but there are things that are more susceptible to people wanting to engage. And one of those things, which my partner really turned me on to, which I was a little bit against at first because I don't like being in front of the camera, was doing something like this to highlight a show that I have at the Houston Public Library. We filmed a video of me taking people into the show, explaining a little bit about it was. And this got some of the highest engagement out of anything that is on my profile. And I fought it for so long because I didn't want to be in front of the camera. But that's that vulnerability that we as photographers, usually behind the camera, I encourage you to step out from, because as soon as I did this, all the people that wanted to support me as a photographer felt engaged with this because they see me, right? So that definitely helped me kind of get over that and understand that we're all just people trying to make it work and trying to make it in this industry. And it's okay to step in front of a camera sometimes and just say, hey, this is me. I invite you to this thing that means so much to me, versus just sending somebody a flyer, right? People want to see a face. They want to engage with you. They want to see who you are. Um, So some pitfalls to avoid are focusing too much on the likes, chasing likes, trying to be everything to everyone all the time. It really will get you burnt out very quickly. So if it's today I don't feel inspired to post, don't post. But tomorrow I do, then do that. Moving from a place of inspiration is typically better, and it will show in the actual post, even if it's something as silly as a story. Sometimes I'll take 20, 30 minutes making one little story so it has all the cool little details that make someone probably rewatch it 3, 4 times. But again, that is the effort. And there's other days that I don't want to do it at all, and that's okay. So this is really a big learning about yourself situation. So here I included just a few ideas, like how I kind of schedule things out of planning so that every day I'm just doing a little bit of something. Obviously, I don't always stick to it, but this is what I try to do. And this, I'm sure, can be shared, and I'm happy to share these slides. I just want to give time for Q&A. But there's also a 30-day action plan. So there's your weekly, like what am I saying on a daily basis? What am I doing on a daily basis? But also like what are my goals long term, right? So when I had my Houston Public Library show, it was going to be up for so long that I have to keep marketing it. I have to keep going back and finding different ways to do that, right? So that video was one of the ways that we continued to bring engagement into that space. And that was a big goal that I had for those 30 days. And we made a whole video. There was drones involved. It was very fun. Um, so another thing that I like to do is go through everything, go through my whole social media platform, go through my website, see where can I cull, right? Where can I cut some things out? Is this still my identity? Is this still me? Is this still talking about what I want to talk about? And so there's that kind of having to harvest, having to practice going through things and deleting so that people can really get to the meat of what you are and who you are. Um, so focusing on things that are meaningful, meaningful shares instead of constant updates, posting with purpose, collaborating with one or new creative or local businesses. That's a really good one too, because now you're sharing your work with other places, other spaces, um, and highlighting others. That's a big one too. I actually got a very terrible piece of advice one time from a mentor saying to just focus on me because I used to share a lot of people's work. But in doing that, when I was doing that at the time, it was my way of connecting with people and appreciating their work and making sure that people within my community knew that this person existed and that that work existed, right? And that was really important to me. And I'm glad I didn't listen to that piece of advice because that's honestly what got me a lot of followers was people being very engaged with the fact that they knew I was going to share other work, or I was going to be involved in a creative community somehow and share these creatives and their pages and things like that. Um, so I really encourage you to do that, and it'll help you build community as well, which right now I think we need more than ever. So a 30-day action plan, auditing your online presence. Is everything here intentional? Can maybe my picture of my salad be deleted? Maybe, you know what I mean? Um, Also, one event or one assignment doesn't always have to be one post, right? We can repurpose. We can get a lot more out of the things that we're doing, other than just being like, this is my one here. So that's posts, BTS stories. We can do email blogs. YouTube shorts are a thing right now. YouTube is about to really like go right back up at where it was. So just finding different ways to make sure that we're keeping our work alive. Um, and so final thoughts. Um, please don't be shy. My website is on there too, in case you wanted to look at just the different ways that that I'm putting my work out there. And yeah, thank you so much. I tried to keep it as concise as possible. It's very hard. There's so much to talk about.
No, seriously, like we could talk about this for days, but you really did. You really simplified it. And I can see a lot of folks are appreciating everything that you've shared so far. And I know somebody just asked about go back to slide 8. Um, if you want to go back, you can, but don't worry, everybody. All these things are being recorded. And so when we put the replay available, you'll be able to like go back and click pause and see all those slides for yourself again. So don't worry. Like you said, I want to make sure we can get to a lot of the great questions we have coming in. And so let me just kick off with I love when you mentioned that networking is like a dirty word because I can definitely understand that. And it is just a word that is just like, oh my gosh, I hear it all the time. I tell people all the time, we know what's important. But can you break down a little bit more about how you would advise somebody to network when maybe they're an introvert? Or, somebody here asked about, do you have like an elevator speech or, elevator like pitch of how you like introduce yourself or sell yourself? So when you did start going to places to show up, because it is better to show up to things, sometimes I feel like I completely agree with what you're saying about the best networking, the best marketing you can do is being in person. So can you do like a little like intro, like I guess when you went to these events, like how pitched, but like how you introduced yourself for folks can get an idea of what that looks like?
Sure. And I will also say that it's also tailored, depending on where I am
Mhm.
and what it is that I'm kind of like hoping to connect with. Obviously, but also that's because like now at this point, like I have so much I want to share that I'm like, okay, like this elevator pitch can very quickly become a monologue, you know? So I think it's
Mhm.
also about understanding who you're talking to, um, that kind of connection, right? Because I could say, like, hey, like my name's Raquel Natalicchio and I'm a photographer from Los Angeles, but now I'm based in Houston and I work in both documentary and also I'm really passionate about street photography and just anything visually creative that has anything to do with storytelling, right? Is that a practice pitch?
Mhm.
No, right? But I also think that when you speak from a very impassioned place and genuine place, and you're really answering a question, like if somebody's trying to get to know you, who is this somebody, right? Um, that's typically the best way because the hardest part about self-marketing, I think, is getting out of our own way. Getting out of our own way and being afraid to kind of show who we are or not say it perfectly or think that if I don't say this perfectly, then I won't get this job, which is a huge leap. Um, I think it's really about just being yourself, being very authentic and like, this is what I do and this is what I love. And even if that's not the thing that you're looking for, like maybe they're not looking for a street photographer, but I think letting them know that I have more to offer than the thing that I think that they want from me. Again, it helps people
Mhm.
meet you in a capacity that helps them kind of get inspired to envision new ways to work with you. And that can also be something
Mhm.
too, is to not be so focused on making that connection to get something out of it, right? Like not meeting everybody as a potential like you're going to have something for me. And so I'm going to tailor what I say specific to like if I meet an editor that works for the New York Times, like, am I going to just like only talk about the thing that I want to get hired for from them?
Mhm.
know, right? I'll mention it for sure, but I also want them to know that I have a variety of other skills and things that I feel passionate about. And that's good for them to know too. So I think it's just about not, it's really just not about doing what you think people want and really just
Mhm.
showing up authentically as much as possible.
I absolutely love that. And there's a few questions here about your exhibit that you put on, that you curated and created. Can you give a more breakdown of how you went about that? What advice you have for others who maybe want to do their own solo exhibition or maybe a curated group exhibition? Um, how much did it cost? Was it expensive for you to put this on?
Yeah, so can I share my screen real quick just to answer this question? Because I think
Absolutely.
visually it'll be fun. Well, I don't know if fun is, hopefully it's fun. So exhibitions. I've put on a lot of exhibitions, and I will say that for the last 10 years, I've put one or two on every year, and all of them have pretty much been self-funded up until very recently. And do I have a lot of money? Absolutely not. I'm a journalist, okay? Like, let's be very clear about this. My first exhibition that I ever put on, I was working as a waitress to pay for the camera that I had bought on credit. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's not necessarily about having money, it's about knowing who your collaborators are and understanding that if you do it alone, it will be harder. There are people out there that also want to share in that experience or want to build with you. And this is a cool example. This is a group show that I did with a group of girls. I was really into documenting graffiti at the time. And so I literally just saw two girls doing a mural in the street in London. And I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. I want to be their friend. I want to meet them. I want to photograph them. And so I literally went up to them and I was like, can I please take pictures of you painting? And they're like, yeah, of course. And, fast forward, they really wanted to put on a gallery, but they hadn't really done it before. I had only really done my own, and it was pretty successful in the sense that, it did the thing, right? I was able to accomplish everything. I paid $500 worth of printing my own work and just put it out there and taped posters to poles on the street to let people know and like went into every coffee shop I knew existed. And it worked. And I was like, oh my God, cool. This is awesome. So when we met up here, they wanted to do something, but they just didn't know how to go about it. And so I was like, well, I've learned this. Let's just see what happens if we just try it. Like, we'll craft it ourselves, we'll make it our own. It doesn't have to be like how all the other galleries are. Like, there is no standard. There is no, you have to do this or it's not official or it's not legit or whatever, right? If anything, 10 framed pieces in a row in a white room like can only be fun so many times, I think people crave an experience. So what was really helpful for me when I made a show is again, it's like letting people really meet you by an experience. Yes, this is the work, but what else can I offer? And so what we did was, we offered workshops, painting workshops. We got people involved and engaged in the space outside of just coming and looking and leaving. And that was something that I took with me to every show I've ever had. Her vision was one of my latest ones here in Houston. Again, the space let us do this show for free because they were so inspired by what it is that we were doing. And so, again, sharing intention, having a clear intention is so powerful because sometimes when you're in that space and you may not have the money, but people want to support someone with intention. And so I got this space for free, and we were able to host 100 female artists in this space and they were all there for free as well, right? And so it's like ethically, like, who am I, right? I want to create spaces where people don't have to pay to get in, don't have to be famous to get in into a show, right? It can be your first time ever showing your work, or you could be the most badass artist in Houston. Like, the point is accessibility and making sure everybody had a turn. And those were my personal values. And that's what I brought to this show, right? And so our shows, our galleries, our spaces that we're inviting people into should feel intentional. You're taking people, essentially, it's like someone's getting on a plane. You better know how to fly this plane. And it's not about you better know how to do a gallery. It's just that you like really feel it out, think it out. What are you offering people? What are you inviting people into? And that is really going to help you stand out from the 1 million group shows that exist in the world that are really just art on a wall and that's it. Um, So I encourage you to have interactive elements in your shows. I think that's going to really help people engage into your space, stay in your space as well. You know what I mean? Finding different ways to showcase your artwork. Like maybe it doesn't always have to be the framed piece. Maybe you print it out on a piece of fabric. You make it a more engaging show that way. Maybe it's projections. With my border work, for example, I had artifacts that I had brought with me from the Rio Grande that were left behind from people who had crossed in the river. And I put them and I literally displayed them, showcasing the scene that I found them in, which was essentially a dirt road, and bringing people into that experience. This was at the consulate, at the Mexican consulate, and I brought a bag of dirt, and they were like, "What are you doing with this bag of dirt in our consulate?" And I was like, "Trust me, like this is about viewing the work in a way that brings people as close to the space as they can without actually being there." So again, a bag of dirt is what, $5? You can go to Walgreens. Sometimes they have, well, maybe they don't have Walgreens in the all these amazing places that everyone's having here too, but like there are ways to find affordable printing. Like sometimes it's really not about it being perfect, it's about it being intentional. It's a very long-winded answer,
My
but
goodness,
that's
Raquel. Oh my gosh. Like I was like
well, I think people always assume that like I just had like these thousands of dollars to do all these shows, and like I love the fact that I had to figure it out on a
Yeah,
dime. It just makes you more
yeah.
creative in that sense.
Yeah, totally. And I have been to a few of these shows that Raquel has mentioned, and y'all, they are, I mean, the one at the consulate is more thoughtful and thought-provoking and deep. And so I don't want to say it was like, but so incredible. Like she said, the interactive, the bringing in the other elements. But the one you did at the brewery, y'all, that was like a fiesta. Like it was fun. I had fun. It was like really cool. It was like no other photography show I had ever been to. So yeah, I mean,
And she was in it. Danielle was in this show showing her work, just
I was also
FYI.
there. I was physically in it. But yeah, just like so cool, so inspiring. And I just love hearing you talk about all of the ways that you're thinking outside of the box and like you said, like being authentic and being just like true to your vision. And then it will come and not worrying so much about like how it looks to other people or how many likes it gets or if it's trending. So yeah, it's been Man, you're just like dropping gold nugget after gold nugget here. So we do have a lot of more questions, and we've got about 10 more minutes for questions. So we're just gonna like fire them off. So this is a really good one. How do you protect your work online in an age where content is easily shared or misused? And then I would also like to piggyback on my own with my own question here. As a photojournalist and especially as a staff photographer at the Houston Chronicle, which gets a lot of exposure, here locally and nationally, how do you protect, and you do share personal stuff, how do you protect like yourself actually from like by not sharing too much? How do you keep yourself safe? So how do you keep your work safe from being misused or shared without, consent? And then how do you keep your own person safe?
So for the first one, it's actually very challenging because it's so easy to just screenshot a photo or repost a post without you even really knowing. And, like that's definitely something that you always have to take into consideration. And there's unfortunately very little that we can do outside of making our profile private, but then that limits so much accessibility to your page and your work. And that's something that I struggled with, especially when I was doing a lot of immigration work, because a lot of those photos, could be taken out of context so quickly and easily. And so, there is a little bit of that, like, am I going to post the most intense photo that someone could. You know what I mean? It's just like maybe it's not about posting everything. If you think that it's something that really, like if it was a very vulnerable moment with somebody who you took a lot of time building a relationship with and it could be taken out of that context, then you might want to think about, is this the best place to display it? Like maybe it's not Instagram, maybe you put it on your website, and on the website you have a feature that doesn't allow that drag and drop. um and you can only do as much as you can. As far as keeping yourself and your person safe, I mean, definitely don't like tell people where you live. Don't do stories in front of your house, you know what I mean? Like, but but it's everything is curated.
Hmm.
Yes, it's authentic, but it's all curated. And so it's really up to you how much you're willing to share and want to share. And not everything is for everyone. Not all of me is for everyone, but there are certain things that I know and want to share. Like I get so stoked about nature. Like you have no idea my stories sometimes like feel like a Discovery Channel show. Like I'm like with a snail for half an hour getting a close up, you know what I mean? Like little things like that. But the point is that I get to I lead. You're leading. This is your story. This is your presentation. So
Mm.
you can share as much as you want, but just be mindful of how much you're sharing. You know what I mean?
I love that.
Um,
You're
yeah.
leading. Oh my gosh, because so often, like many aspects of this industry, and as a photojournalist, you don't feel like you're leading or like you're in control or like, especially, freelancing, which you've had experience with too. I know your staff now, but like, yeah, it almost always feels like you're not leading and you're not in control. So I love that reminder. It feels so empowering to hear that. Yeah. So, and also with like algorithms and social media and the big like bubbly space thing, so it's such a good reminder. It like brings you right back down to earth. Like this is yours. You are leading. That's awesome.
Literally.
So on the topic of well, okay, on the topic of algorithms, and then we've got a couple more. So you mentioned not letting the algorithm get you down, but how do you stay on top of knowing what the algorithm is doing or pushing on people, or do you not even worry about it?
I used to not worry about it at all. I was very like anti-rules, which I think Danielle knowing me, you know that I kind of still am that way. But I did have somebody close to me show me the value in just understanding the metrics, understanding like why not help yourself succeed, right? Setting yourself up for success. If you look, on Instagram, there are insights you can look at, where you can look at a lot of things. Like it I truly hope that, nerd out for a day on like your metrics. Like really look at it. Like where are people following you from? Like I didn't know I had such a big following from Brazil. Like of
Mm,
all the places, I've never even been there, but I saw on Instagram that a lot of people from Brazil seem to follow me. Cool. Now I know, right? Now there's another layer of intentionality that I understand about what it is that I'm putting out there. And so all the metrics are going to really do, and this is what helped reshape my brain around it and see it more of, as a tool and less about following rules. Um, it's just understanding. Okay, more people are seeing my stuff at noon and at 7 p.m or
mm,
whatever the thing is, right? And even my partner religiously like goes by that thing because it's like if people are already engaged at the highest here, then make the effort to meet them there,
mm,
right? It's not about doing it because Instagram says, it's about they're all at the party at this time. If you're going to do the show, it's going to be at that time, you're not going to bring the best band when no one's there. And
mm,
so it's just about like understanding what it is that is happening on your Instagram and engaging with that. Um, and also just engaging, liking other people's stuff, sharing other people's stuff, just being an engaged member in whatever the community is, whether it's Instagram, whether it's out in the real world, going to events, going to art events, going to things, meeting people, showing up. Like that's one of the best things.
mhm. Oh, so encouraging, so empowering. I'm loving this. I'm finding a new love for social media through you, Raquel.
It's a
Um,
tool like any other, like I used to really bag on it too. And then I realized like it's like a knife. Like you can use it to cut bread or to do something terribly worse. This is a terrible example. But you know what I mean? It's a tool
I'm
like any
like,
other.
or
And
potatoes?
right. But the point is that, it is a tool and you
Yeah.
get to use it however you want.
Totally. Um, okay, so I'm gonna ask a couple more and then Paula, you can finish this out. So can you talk about, someone says, can you talk about sales? I'm finding I have multiple pieces from shows I've been in and it feels a little discouraging. How do you get collectors in the room? Which I think you're the perfect person to answer this because you've had your work displayed in shows, you have built shows, you probably have had artists in your shows who have had similar feelings. So this is a perfect question for you.
I have a closet full of work, so don't be discouraged. I think this is all of us. But also a good thing. Okay, so there's it's a two-part question. Meeting collectors is a very different thing than like what can I do with this work, although they work together, right? Collectors is one avenue. And typically you're going to meet collectors by showing up to art shows, art galleries, places where collectors are going, typically openings, typically like, you know, where they get to see the work first is a thing. But collectors are also a very tight-knit community in the same way that photojournalists are. And so just by simply being a member that is present within the art community, and at some point, like stating your intention. Like there's nothing wrong with asking for what it is that you want to do. Like they're there. Art collectors want to see your work too. They're looking for work too. Like it's getting out of the mindset that like we're not begging for anything. We're showing up into a space where all of the things are that are mutually beneficial. And so it's just about being it's almost about being a little bit brave enough to ask for the thing that you want. So if I go to an art gallery and I align with the way that it feels there and I'm just like, oh, like this is cool art, like the people are running this gallery, like they feel really good, like it doesn't feel like, snooty or snobby or whatever. I'm like, maybe these are the right people to ask, like, hey, like do you have any people that might know an art collector? I really like to tap in with that community. They might say no, but they might say yes. And then you keep pulling at the thread little by little. And it's, there has to be a level of humbleness that you go into it as well of like show me, lead me. Like, you know what I mean? And being open to that. I think oftentimes we get caught up thinking that we have to seem like we have it all figured out. And it's okay to just ask. Or if you see someone else doing something that inspires you, just be like, hey, like, how'd you learn how to do that? Or hey, connect me with this person. So that's the art collector thing. They're very easy to find. They want to find you too. P.S. And the second thing is, do you have any other creatives, that have some pieces that they want to put on a little show? Or use your platform online to be like, hey, I have these pieces from this show, um, putting them up for sale, or whatever the thing is, like just put it out there. You don't really have to wait for anything. And I know it seems really silly to say, and it's kind of like, duh, you know what I mean? But sometimes we really just need to be reminded that if you have work you want to sell, post it, post about it, make a video, be like, hey, I have these really cool pieces I want to showcase. I'm looking to find a home for them, like make it like a little adoption video, or, just get creative with it. Let people know, because if no one knows, nothing will ever change or be done. And so like sharing the thing that you want to do, that's step one. And then people will come in, the collaborators will come in, or the opportunities will come in. But until you say the thing, no one will ever know.
So on that note, because someone just asked, does posting it on Instagram devalue the work? But you're saying it's totally fine to post like whatever you want to sell. You can post it.
Repeat the question one more time.
They said if they want to exhibit, does posting on Instagram devalue the work? Almost like the work has already been seen.
I don't know if work being seen devalues it. Maybe you're not posting the actual picture as a post. Maybe it's a picture of the framed photograph,
Mm,
or you holding it in a way that now you're engaging with your comics. Now they're seeing who the photographer is. Like maybe
mm,
it's literally like you do a self-portrait with your picture or something of that nature, where it's not about just saying like, here's the photo. Well, now we've all seen it. Why do we want it? It's about showing that there is a product that
right.
is in need of being sold. So it's less about the photo and it's more about the ask.
Yes, yes, that is such a great idea. Another question here. You shared some advice at the beginning about what you did when you just moved to Houston, like you posted on your Instagram stories saying, "Hey, I want to meet other women photographers." This person says, "I just moved to Philly from New York City, and I'm a new creative here. Would love some advice on ways to stay creative when in a new place and environment, and in the beginning stages of meeting new people."
The story of my life. I've moved a lot of times in my
Right.
life and started from ground zero. So I hear you. And also what an exciting time. You have a blank canvas. You're gonna meet so many new people and be taken into all these spaces that you just could not even fathom, right? So moving with that sense of curiosity and excitement first is also going to help you attract what it is that you're wanting to attract. Not being in that mindset of lack of like, oh, I know no one, because then we shell up
Mm,
and that's not
mm,
necessarily who you run to in a room to meet. when you're,
Mhm.
connecting. And so approaching it with excitement of like, I wonder who's here that is going to be a future collaborator or even just friend, right? And so I encourage you to look up things that interest you. I know this sounds silly and redundant, but go to the shows, go, and even not just art shows, like go to the things that, like for me, like I love, like graffiti was a really big thing for me. And so like I would actively, if I smelled paint out in the streets, I would like go run towards it. I'm like, who is it? Like let me meet
Mhm.
you. And so like this is your biggest assignment yet, right?
Mhm.
What would you be doing if this was an assignment? Where would you research? Where would you go? Who would you talk to? Um, who are the people in the room that are doing things that you want to do or that you align with or that you just want to support? And then the biggest and hardest thing is really going to be just showing up and throwing yourself into the mix and essentially, and something that I've always done that was my little safety blanket is I always show up with my camera, obviously. Right.
Mhm.
I'm telling a bunch of photo nerds, but the thing is I would always be taking pictures. So if I ever felt awkward in a situation, I would just be taking pictures until I shook it off. And then I'd be in the space, and then 9 times out of 10, someone sees the camera and they're like, "Oh, you're a photographer," and it just starts that conversation, and it's an icebreaker. So whatever it is that you need to do to be in a space as yourself, and knowing what it is that you need. Like if you're a little bit, I know you're not gonna believe it, but I am a little bit socially like shy sometimes and then I come out. But and then you can even potentially use those photos to if there was I went to a let me back up. When I first moved to Houston, I went to a graffiti battle. It has nothing to do with photojournalism or photography, but I loved graffiti and I just wanted to do something fun. I took some pictures there and I ended up sending it to the organizers. They loved it, so they invited me to this other thing. And that's how the snowball effect happens, right? And I'm not saying go take pictures to lure people into friendship, but like there are ways to connect through the thing that you do so that people understand what you do and who you are.
Mhm.
And now that collaborative relationship has begun in a way.
I absolutely love that framing and that perspective. It gave me so much personally to think about. Wasn't even my question, but I love that. One final question for you because we are past time and we want to be mindful of the time and all the back-to-back classes we do have. What is one mistake or lesson you learned in marketing yourself that you can now look back on like, oh, I wish I did this differently?
That's a hard one, but I'm going to be quick about it because immediately it was absolutely nothing work related in any way. But I wish it wouldn't have taken me so long to not to get in front of the camera and start sharing more of my personal like self. Um, I don't know if you guys remember the ChatGPT roasts of your Instagram profiles, but ChatGPT roasted my profile essentially saying like it was just so like uptight and it was just like the perfect work all the time and it was just like there was nothing personal in it and she had no idea who I was and like she's like I'm sure she'll win the Nobel Peace Prize someday but who is she, you know what I mean, or she said something crazy like that and I was just like
I totally missed
you're
Oh
so
my
this.
right.
God. I like almost
Ugh. Like
spit out my
literally,
water. If they said
like just
that
thinking
about
about it I'm
yours,
literally blushing.
if they said that about yours, it'd probably be like, she just needs to quit. About mine. Oh my God, I'm not
Literally.
gonna do that.
Right. But that was a huge lesson because now I'm just like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, like I can show more of myself. It doesn't always have to be perfect work. And I'm still working on that, like that is actively what I'm doing right now as a creative because
Mhm.
now I don't feel the need to really prove myself with my work. I'm like, oh yeah, like the work is good. Like let that do its job. Now
Yeah.
let people meet you, you
Mm,
know?
mm.
People often forget that people want to work with people they know and they like. As simple as that. It's so true. It is so so true. Oh my gosh, Raquel, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for just the breakdown of just such a complex, like daunting. I keep saying that for each class, but it really is. Social media marketing, networking, all of those things are just so overwhelming. So thank you so much. Anything else you want to share with us before we go?
I just encourage everybody who's here also, or even the future recorded attendees, to reach out. Like, don't be shy. Like, again, like this is a collaboration. Sometimes we need to talk to other people to bounce ideas off of or whatever it is. Like, so I hope that everyone really leans on each other for this topic and especially me, like, please. And And lastly, just thank you so much for having me. Like, what a wonderful thing that you guys are doing. And I love that I was asked to do this because I just did not want to talk about this subject myself. And so even the people that are teaching these courses are also learning, and it's a beautiful thing. So thank you for putting this on.
Thank
Thank
you,
you for your expertise
Raquel.
and her information. We dropped it in the chat again. And of course, it's available on our websites as well. So do reach out to her when she says reach out, reach out.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Raquel.
you, Raquel. What a treat. Te queremos. Well, wow, I'm just like have so much to think about and take away from that and consider having ChatGPT roast my account. I don't know though. I don't know if I'm brave enough for that.
I don't know either. I don't know.
Raquel is brave. Um, well, all right, guys, and we'll be starting the next class in just a moment with the incredible Angela Ogunfojuri. But before we dig in, we wanted to thank again our partner, Photo Wings. We cannot thank them enough for being our partner and making the essentials happen. For those who might join a little bit later, Photo Wings is a nonprofit whose mission is to highlight and help facilitate the power of photography to influence the world. And as a nonprofit, they help photography to be better understood, created, utilized, seen, and saved. So thank you once again, Photo Wings.
And don't forget, y'all, to take note of our website since these classes are being recorded and will be published online forever and ever. And we've mentioned like this is season 6, so that means we have 5 past seasons that you can replay and catch up on. Just a wealth of knowledge in our past seasons. And of course, if you missed yesterday's at any point, don't worry, we'll post these online so you can catch up on yesterday's as well.